guys! So as One Piece is on break this week, I was like, what should I do? And what better time than now to talk about Film Gold! Film Gold! Yay, yay! Okay, so for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, I will do a non-spoiler section and then I will do like a spoiler section review kind of thing. So when I go into the spoiler thing, I will go like this or something, so you'll know when to leave, because I'm guessing that a lot of you haven't actually watched the movie yet, as it is out very few places. But yeah, let's get into it. As I sat down to watch this movie, when it started, I literally looked like this. Because the animation for this film is so good. And I think part of the reason that this movie looks so good is because the anime looks so crap. So you go in with this kind of, oh, One Piece, the animation isn't really that good, even though for the movies it usually looks really good. You just kind of hit with this amazing piece of art that's just so mind-blowing that I was just like so shocked that it was so good. And the opening sequence, you can just see that the effort and the money that has been put into these like first 10 or 11 minutes. And it looks amazing. Very, very, very few times did I catch something looking wonky, and that's good for a One Piece movie, because again, the animation for One Piece isn't usually the best thing. But yeah, let's move on from that before I spoil anything. Another thing that just had me like, what? Was the soundtrack for the movie. Like, I think this might be the one thing that most people have been talking about, but the soundtrack is so different from like usual One Piece music, and it's a good thing. The music is just so amazing. Again, the first like 11-12 minutes is like, it's one soundtrack called Golden Jive, and that is so amazing. Like, I even bought the album because it is so good. Another piece of music that was like so amazing, that just had me like totally blown back, was when we have the final fight scene, because yes, this is a One Piece movie, there will be fights. The final fight between Luffy and the main bad guy, Tesoro, because yes, that will happen, I don't think that's a spoiler. There is a soundtrack called Last Battle. That soundtrack is so good. I will describe it kind of like a Game of Thrones soundtrack. If you have listened to the Winds of Winter soundtrack, like the actual soundtrack called Winds of Winter, it's a bit like that, just more One Piece-ish. And it's so good. It's just so good. I've had that soundtrack on repeat for like days. Soundtrack, buy it. Also the ending sequence song, which is out somewhere. You can find it on YouTube probably. That's good. It's so unlike One Piece that it's amazing. And I like One Piece music. One Piece music is like really good, and that's something I put on when I'm feeling bad or feeling down, because One Piece music puts me in a good mood. But this soundtrack is just mind-blowing. Buy it, listen to it. I don't know if it's out anywhere except for like on iTunes, but if you can listen to it, do it. It's so good. The one thing that struck me in this movie that kind of sets it apart from most other One Piece movies is the humor. Like, there were times when the theater, we were just laughing so much because it's a funny movie. And it's not just like the jokes, it's also like, just like gags and accidental things that's just funny. And again, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but especially in the beginning part of the movie, before we have like an actual conflict, it's just funny. The humor is just so on point, and I think that's like the one thing that especially Film C was missing. Film Sad was missing, because that was a very like heavy, serious movie about like justice and yeah, justice. So yeah, that was a good One Piece film, but not as One Piecey as like Strong World was. But this one had like the humor that I felt especially from Thriller Bark, which is like one of my favorite arcs. So if you like Thriller Bark, you like humor from One Piece, then Film Gold is literally golden. Right, now that I've fangirled about like a lot of things for like 5 minutes, let's just go into the spoiler section. So spoiler, leave the video if you don't want to get spoiled. Okay, you have been warned now. So the obvious thing to talk about when talking about One Piece movies in general is the villain. And before I went in to watch this movie, I had heard from a lot of people that the one thing that kind of not dragged it down but wasn't as good as the previous movie was that the villain wasn't as good. So Tesoro wasn't as good as a villain as Zed was. And after having watched the movie, I completely agree. And I think the reason that Tesoro isn't as good as a villain as Zed was because Zed was just such a charismatic character, and you could really understand and get behind what Zed was doing, even though he was like extreme in his like justice by like blowing everything up. And while you also have this very sad backstory for Tesoro, he's not as charismatic as Zed, because the thing about Zed is I really like Zed, like both as a person, as a character, and while I like Tesoro as a character, he's a shitty person. He's just like awful. And he treats people like shit. He's very Doflamingo-ish. The thing I really like about Tesoro though is that, like Doflamingo and also like Crocodile to an extent, is that he's the kind of villain who has been winning and getting his way for such a long time that it's kind of not occurred to him that he couldn't actually win. So when Luffy and the Straw Hats come along and he loses, it's just like he kind of goes like something clicks in him and he stops thinking rationally. Because I think you can really see like in his eyes the moment where he's just like, fuck, what the hell? Something is not going according to plan. And this actually brings me to my favorite scene in this movie that literally just had me like, holy crap. Because it came to a point where I was like, okay, the Straw Hats are now in such a shitty situation that there is no way that they can get out of this without pulling some sort of bullshit card. Like, I was at a point where I was just thinking, okay, this movie isn't going to be that good because they will win by some bullshit reason. Because they were literally all captured except for like what Luffy and Frankie, who were drowning in a sea of water, literally. And I was just like, how the hell will they get out of this? Like, they'll say, well, the sky saved us or something, and I was really skeptical at this point. And then Nami reveals, well, we are now at a point where everything is going according to plan. And then they have like the seawater that bursts up with like Luffy and Frankie and all the people who were stuck in like the gold thing. And all the gold dissolves, and Zoro and the Straw Hats and Karina, they're all freed, and we have like Luffy falling and standing in front of them. That was a beautiful scene. Like, that was just so clever. Because they actually had me fooled. I don't know why I didn't see it coming. I was so sure that they were gonna bullshit their way through it, and they just came out with such a perfect plot twist. And I don't know if I'm the only one who was so impressed by that, but that for me was just so mind-blowing. And I think another reason that I think this movie is so good is because the first time you watch this, there are so many surprises. Because you have like, have you ever watched Now You See Me? Where you have like all the magic tricks and then afterwards it's revealed how they did all the things. Because when you first watch like the magic show, if you've ever seen the movie, if you're not, let me just explain. It's about like these 4 people who, they're magicians and they use their magic to do like semi-illegal things like robbing a bank and stuff like that, but all for justice. And the tricks that they kind of pull off, they seem so like legit magical that you're like, okay, how are you gonna explain this? How are you actually gonna explain this? And then afterwards we have like their kind of the antagonist of the movie, who's like, well, they did it like this, 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 and this. And it all makes sense, which means that the second time you watch the movie, you can watch the movie, but you don't get the same whoa experience because now you know how they did all the things. And I think Film Gold is gonna be somewhat the same, because then of course you'll watch it and then you'll be like, ah, that's why they did that. But then it kind of lowers the surprise value, if you know what I mean. And I think for most movies it's like that, but especially for movies that like Film Gold, which just, the impact was so big and just like it hit me. cheering almost. Like, I kind of kept it down because we were in a theater and no one else was like screaming. But had I been alone, I would have screamed. So I want to talk a little bit about like the Straw Hats, because usually the thing about these films is that we have a lot of Luffy because of course he's our main character, so he should take out the big bad, and then we have like Zoro and Sanji getting like their side fights. And for both Strong World and Film Set, I have felt like the Zoro and Sanji fights have kind of been lacking. Like for Set, nothing, like they were the least exciting things about Film Set. That was their like final fights against, what was the name, Ain and the grass dude whose name I've really forgotten. I think his name was something with M. But yeah, that was kind of for Strong World, I feel like they were, like, obviously Zoro and Sanji were so much stronger than their opponents, but at least there was kind of like a humor element incorporated into their fights. So like Sanji had the thing where he was mad at the gorilla for wanting to marry Robin or something, while Zoro was just so overpowered that we had like Usopp and Chopper on the sideline just like wondering whether or not he was immortal. Like, that was a funny moment, while Film Set was just kind of, well, they're gonna win and nothing's really happening. Like, it looked good, but it wasn't really that exciting. For this film, we had not only did we have some really great fights, which I am going to go into later. Damn, I couldn't say that. But we also had other Straw Hats in focus because, yeah, as I said, it's usually the Monster Trio, and as I forgot to mention, it's also Nami who usually gets some sort of spotlight for some reason. But in this movie we have Franky being featured a lot, which is a really good thing because I feel like overall he's probably one of the least favorite Straw Hats, and I'm gonna say this, he's my least favorite Straw Hat too. But then again, all the Straw Hats are my favorite characters, so it's not like I hate him or anything. I really love Franky. And I think that he was great in this movie. We had him accompanying Luffy along, and I really like that because I kind of forgot until this movie how much I love Franky and Luffy interacting. And it kind of again reminds me of Thriller Bark, where he, Franky, and Robin especially, after Zoro and Sanji had been taken, those three, and especially Luffy and Franky, they just have so much fun together, and their dynamics are so fun to watch. So yeah, that got me in this movie, and I'm so glad that Franky got the time to shine. Even though he kind of disappeared by the end of the movie, like by the end of the movie we had all of these fight scenes and Franky just wasn't there. Like, I kept thinking, where the hell is Franky? Isn't he gonna do something? What happened? So yeah, that was kind of disappointing that he wasn't featured more in the end. But the fight scenes, again, going into this movie, I was kind of aware that Franky would have like a bigger role than usual, so I was like, okay, so I'm guessing that the Monster Trio and Franky will get like their fight scenes. And I was wrong. We had Luffy, of course, battling to Zoro, which was a very beautiful fight. We had Zoro fighting the dude who liked pain, which, like, his character was just hilarious. He was probably one of my, like, favorite, like, lackeys. He was just hilarious. The face he makes whenever, like, Zoro hit him was just, like, that was hilarious. As I said, this movie was funny. But we also had, what was it, Usopp, Chopper, and who was it? What is Brook or something? I forgot actually. But Usopp, Chopper, and one more person. I'm pretty sure it was Brook. They fought the girl with the Luck fruit. I think it was a Luck fruit. And that was different because those three never get like fights in these things. They always just fight like the fodder characters. And I feel like Usopp's finishing move on that girl, that was amazing because as he ran away from the fight, we all knew that he was coming back. Like, this is Usopp post time skip. He's not just running away, he always comes back. So that was a great moment, even though it was kind of predictable. It was great how he like used his wit to win over her. So yeah, that was great. The Sanji and Robin team up though, that was the best one, like, of the three minor fights that wasn't Luffy. That was amazing because they were up against an opponent who could slip through walls and slip through like the ceiling and the ground and stuff. So I was actually wondering that how the hell can they win against this dude? He can just disappear and then pop up somewhere else. But then again, Robin did the thing she didn't Dressrosa when Cavendish kind of launched for her, where she's like, well, as long as I can see you, I can capture you. That's all I need. So if you pop up somewhere, I can see you, you're dead. So we had like the team up where Robin captured him and Sanchi finished him off, and I think that was a really great moment because, again, this is another like relationship that I kind of forgot how much I love, because Robin and Sanji, they're great together when Sanji forgets like his love cook thing. So I'm not gonna talk about the Tesoro versus Luffy fight because I feel like there's not a lot to say about it. Of course, the fight looked great, like it was the last main fight of the film. And the music was great, as I've already said. Last Battle soundtrack, go listen to it if you can find it. The animation was great. It flowed really well. And I was hyped while watching it. So if there were any like mistake or wonky animations, I didn't see it because I was so entranced by it. So let's just leave it at that. The one thing that I was really skeptical about, like really skeptical about when going in to watch the movie, was the cameos that I knew were gonna be there, because we knew from the get-go that Lucci was gonna appear, Spandam was gonna appear, Sabo was gonna appear, and Koala was gonna appear, and I was just like, well, this is a movie. It's like 1.5, 2 hours long, and you can't just have cameos because that steals screen time for our main characters. As I said, I was kind of sad that Frankie didn't do more by the end of the movie, as he was so important in the beginning and the middle part. But when it comes down to it, I didn't really mind, and though I was really aware of how much of it was just like fan service, as Lucci had just appeared in the end of Dressrosa and Sabo is Sabo and everyone loves Sabo. It was okay, because the thing is, it makes sense for them to be there. However coincidental it is that they are there at the same time as Luffy, it makes sense. And the mini kind of fight blow exchanges that they have and that we see Sabo and Lucci have, I mean, it looks great. Let's not lie, it looks great. And I don't think these characters are gonna fight at any point, so it's a lot of a tease. It's a tease, right? So yeah, while I don't really have a problem with it, I would have wished that they would have given the screen time to other people like Frankie, or maybe, oh, I was about to say Nami, but not Nami. Nami had a lot of screen time in this movie. And I don't complain. Nami's storyline was greater in this one than it was in both Sad, where she was a child, and in Strong World, where she started off as a damsel, but then redeemed herself and then was the damsel again, and it went a bit back and forth in Strong World. But yeah, that's a thing I forgot to talk about though. Zoro getting captured, wasn't that great? Wasn't that a great plot twist? Because here's the thing, I was talking to a friend before going in to watch the movie about how we were like kind of annoyed about Zoro's like attitude towards Sanji being kidnapped, and I just thought it was so great that he was the one to get captured in this movie, because he's usually the strong one, the one who's like, oh, if you can't handle it yourself, then you're just like a piece of shit. He has this very stupid attitude towards things sometimes. So seeing him get captured was really great, and the faith he just had in Luffy and the others to come and save him. There's this one scene where Tesoro comes in and he's like, Zoro's in this dark room and just covered in gold and he can't move. And you can just, I don't even remember if Zoro said it outright that Luffy would come and save him, but it was in his eyes and the way he like, his expression, it was great. I love those moments. Moments where people just put their complete faith in Luffy. Those are my my favorite One Piece moments, like of all time. Okay, as I feel like I've been talking for a really long time at this point, I'll just leave some final thoughts. Basically, if you haven't watched the movie and you're somehow still here, go watch it. It is amazing. It is, right now, it's probably my favorite One Piece movie, and I think that might be because, one, as I said, it's a good first time watch. 2, it's been like 4 years since we had the last One Piece movie, and 3, going from the anime which just like left Dressrosa, it's just like amazing. I watched this when we were like halfway through the filler arc, and like it was just like so much better in comparison. So definitely, if you have the chance, go watch the movie. And if you don't, and you're somehow still listening to this, getting all the spoilers you can, download the soundtrack, find all the pieces of information you can, or find out where you can watch it, because it's great. Like, I went to another country just to watch this movie, and it was completely worth it. Like, I'm not even, yeah. Well, if you liked anything that I had to say, even though I think I rambled quite a lot, both at the end and in the middle part, I think, yeah, give it a thumbs up. And leave in the comments below what you thought of Film Gold if you have watched it, and if you haven't, then do you want to see it? What are your expectations? Yeah, and subscribe to me if you want to see more of me. I usually do reviews of One Piece, Shokugeki no Soma, and Haikyuu, so if you are into those, obviously you are probably into One Piece since you're watching this. But yeah, if you're into any of the others, subscribe to me for all your reviews, and bye!